surprise of absolutely no one. John Cena is the new WWE champion. Oh my gosh. He's broken Ric Flair's record. He's a 17-time world champion. And I gotta say, the way that the main event was booked was crazy to me. Like I anticipated more than what happened. I thought maybe Seth would get involved, no Rock. Instead, we got Travis Scott getting in there. And Cena basically wins the title the same way that he attacked Cody Rhodes after the Elimination Chamber, after he won the Chamber and turned heel. He won the title the same way, low blow, hit him with the title, hit him with like four attitude adjustments. Avalanche, attitude adjustment. Cena pretty much controlled the tempo of the match, and man, I this is crazy. I mean, wow, Cena, his last WrestleMania. You figure it would happen, but I just didn't. I didn't anticipate it would happen the way that it did. I mean, Cody uh, really didn't do as much as I would have thought he would. Like he did. He had some offense in there, but they really had Cena control the pace of this match. I mean, Cody, he hit the crossroads twice, but both times he hit it. The first time the ref was out, because he bumped into the ref. They had the typical ref bump. The ref was out and he couldn't count it. The second time he hit it, Travis Scott pulled the ref out of the ring. And mind you, this isn't like last year with Roman Reigns, where that match was that was basically a free for all type of match where it was bloodline rules, so they could do whatever. This match was just a regular singles match for the title, and yet when Travis Scott got in there, he was about to strike him. There was it wasn't a DQ because he didn't actually strike him, but it didn't have the same anticipation that last year's main event had with all the shenanigans and everything. And I think The Rock not being involved definitely with the final boss, that definitely kind of took away the spark, that last year's had for sure. Um, I gotta say, the fans were mostly cheering for Cena. Um, there were some cheering for Cody, but Cody was getting some boos just like he was on SmackDown. And Cody loses the belt here. I mean, after only 9 title defenses, and he loses the belt here at a 300. I think it said 378 days as champion. Man, Cena. You figured it would happen. Cody got the best of him twice on Raw, a couple times on Raw, uh, and Cena just wins. I mean, Cena. I will say this. Cena, for this to be his last WrestleMania, he did bust out a tornado DDT, which was nice. Um, you know, he looked like he was trying to go for a famouser, but Cody countered that with kind of like with a power bomb. So he did, bust out certain things, but mostly Cena was, just embracing this new character of his, just mostly, like I said, controlling the tempo, you know, doing simple moves that he usually does. Hit him with the counter with the STF at one point. Um, try to go for uh, the five knuckle shuckle, which Cody countered the first time. Then he hit him with it the second time. Um, but man, I mean, this was quite a match here. This was quite a match. Uh, I still don't. I would say last year's main event was definitely better with Cody and Roman. But then again, we're talking about a guy who, Cena, for some time, uh, you know, hasn't, been wrestling fully. But Roman hasn't either. But the difference is, like, I guess you could say conditioning. And then, like, Cena has had a lot more wear and tear with his body. But I got to say, character wise, Cena, he was great. The way he was acting, in the ring, how he was kind of taunting the fans, and they were still cheering whatever he did, even though he taunted them, even though he slow walked with his entrance to the ring. They were still milking everything he did, and it paid off. with him winning the belt here. Um, Pretty solid. Um, you know, I would say just Cena's work in the match itself made it watchable. Um, Personally, I still would say the last year's main event was better, but I do think this one here was. I thought it was solid to an extent. Um, you know, in some ways though, I feel like Cody kind of made Cody look weak because, I mean, okay, he kicked out of 4 attitude adjustments, but then they had the whole thing with Cena trying to hit him with the title, the same thing he did to him at the Chamber, and Cody has the opportunity to do it, but he doesn't. He backs away, he pushes the title down, and that's when Cena hits the low blow on Cody. And this is after Cody takes out Travis Scott. Travis Scott gets in the ring, has a slow entrance to the ring, by the way. Takes forever to get in there. Gets in the ring. Well, first he comes outside of the ring, helps Cena. Then he gets in the ring when Cody calls him out. And then Cody, because he tries to strike Cody like he did at the Chamber, but Cody counters it to the crossroads and takes him out the equation. But that was it. We didn't have no other interference. I guess because of how big night one ended with the double cross with Paul Heyman, and Roman and CM Punk. That was such a big angle that they, with The Rock not being in Mania this year, you couldn't really have anything bigger than that happen in night two. I'll probably say night one, like the closing angle is probably, going to be remembered for years how they ended night one. But in night two, um, I don't know. It was decent. Um, it's just interesting, how they had Cena win this because Cena pretty much controlled, most of the match. I would have thought it'd been a lot more back and forth because Cody definitely, like I said, he got the power slam at one point. He got the crossroads twice, which in both occasions, the pin didn't really get pinned. He didn't really, get the count. Um, and at one point, he hit the cutter, on Cena, which was pretty nice. So he definitely did get some offense in there. But Cena still pretty much dominated, the most of the match, and so it was definitely interesting how it was booked. Um, and also even commentary, because Michael Cole was like, Cody, he didn't have what in him, like Cena had been saying. He called Cena one of the greatest, the GOAT, winning the belt. And Wade Barrett was just disgusted by it. Wade Barrett's supposed to be the heel commentator, but he was disgusted by it, saying Cena, this is a disgrace, and even Pat McAfee was kind of funny about it, but Pat McAfee was more on Michael Cole's side to an extent. But yeah, man, very interesting how they booked the main event. Man, Cena is the new world champion 17 times. His last WrestleMania. I mean, you either had to have him win or you had to have Cody retain. And I think they just booked themselves in the corner, because, you kind of felt bad for Cody because it didn't matter what he did. You know, they were more booing him than cheering him. So you kind of felt bad for Cody in that aspect. But, you know, um, that, you had two title changes tonight. Actually, you had three title changes. Probably the biggest one being, Dominic winning the Intercontinental Championship in a really good fatal four way. He actually pins Finn Balor for Frog Splash after Finn Balor hits the coup de grace, I think, on Braun Breaker, and he hits him with the Frog Splash to win the match. His own teammate, so it's definitely going to set up either Finn getting kicked out of Judgment Day or maybe a Dominic face turn. Is definitely setting that up because the crowd went wild with Dominic. This is his first major singles championship victory, and he broke his losing streak, at WrestleMania. So that was another big thing about his victory. Losing three times at WrestleMania, he finally breaks that streak, winning this year at WrestleMania. So it's a big, big moment for Dominic in that fatal four way between him, Penta, Braun Breaker, and And you know, him, Penta, Braun Breaker, and um, and Finn Balor. It was a big moment for him. Big moment. The match was good too. The Spears Braun that he hit on Carlito through the announce table after Carlito got involved more than once. Stopping the pin with Penta when Penta had almost had him beat, was almost about to win the title. Stopping the pin and then getting taken out by Braun Breaker. The Spears Braun Breaker hit on everybody was just sick. Um, Even the Frankensteiner he hit. Um, I think that was on Finn. He hit that on. Was that on Penta? But it was everything you could have imagined with that fatal four way. I think the undercard for the most part, up until maybe the last two matches, it was pretty solid. The opener with Bianca and Io and Rhea Ripley. Bianca, her winning streak actually ends at this WrestleMania, which I think was the right call. Because I'm a big Bianca fan, but I think this was Io's. This was good. To have Io retain here. Um, Especially the way they've been treating her in the storyline as an afterthought. I think Io really needed this win because she hasn't been champion that long, unlike last year where she walked in as champion, but she had the belt for several months when she lost to Bayley. This was quite the opposite. Like she walked in as champion, but she didn't hold the belt for that long. So I think it was perfect. Plus the crowd was kind of booing Bianca here. Rhea was getting a ton of cheers, but Bianca was, she had mixed reactions. She was getting some boos, which is not the first time she's been booed at WrestleMania. When she went against Asuka, she was getting booed that year too, at WrestleMania 39. But but this was different, you know, Io Sky got the win, hitting the moonsault on Bianca after Bianca hit the KOD to Rhea Ripley. So, um, you know, it was definitely a banger of an opener with the triple threat, and I'm glad Io Sky retained. She definitely needed this win this year. I didn't think, as much as I like Bianca, and I'm a big fan of Rhea Ripley too, but I didn't think either of them needed to win the belt this time. Let Io run with it. Let her be champion for a while. Because she's definitely one of the top stars. And if you're gonna book your women strong in NXT, you might as well do the same for the main roster as well. Um, so I just wanted to make that point. So the opener was great. Um, then you had was it the Damian Priest match? And yeah, so Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre was the next match. The Sin City Street Fight. Excellent match right here. For two guys who, this was not really something that Priest, no, that Drew was a fan of doing this particular match, considering how big on the card he was last year. Beating Seth Rollins in the opener of night two for the World Championship last year. Now he faces Damian Priest, but they made it work. They pulled out all the stops, steel steps, tables. They went through two tables. At one point, Damien actually put Drew with the Razor's Edge, put him through the one of the tables, and Drew ended up putting Damien when Damien tried to go for an old school. He put him through two tables that he had set up outside of the ring, and that eventually led to him putting his head onto a steel one of the chairs that Damien had, pulled the ring post out of, and hit him with a claymore to get the victory. But Damien at one point in the match did hit a South from Heaven, but he didn't get all of it. And Drew kicked out, and Drew hit a claymore early in the match, but Damien kicked out of that. So it was definitely back and forth, exactly what you would expect with these guys. I thought they had good chemistry going back to their Clash the Castle match last year, but this match right here, was big for both guys, considering not too many people were looking too forward to this at first, but the build-up was really good, and they showed it. They went out, they pulled out all the stops here. in this match at WrestleMania. So Drew McIntyre, got the victory, um, which I'm not too surprised, but I didn't really know who was going to win the match, to be completely honest. But you know, I figured Drew McIntyre would get a victory here. So you had that. Yeah, so most of the undercard was fairly solid. Um, and you even had the whole Orton thing when he came out with an open challenge, Joe Henry accepting it. Um, you know, I love Joe Henry, but I think you know, I think this match could have been cut from the card. They could have replaced that with the TLC match they're doing on SmackDown. I get that Orton wanted to be on the show because this is his 20th WrestleMania, but it was pretty much just like a 5 6 minute match, 7 minute match. Joe got a good amount of offense in there, but ultimately, Orton, ended up beating him with an RKO, and it was big for Joe because he gets to wrestle his first WrestleMania as the TNA World Champion. But you have your TNA World Champion get pinned, an RKO in his first WrestleMania against Randy Orton. You could have had someone else who wasn't the actual champion, like the main champion of your company. But I don't know. I love Randy Orton, but I think and they were in a tough spot, with Kevin Owens getting hurt. I'm sure the match would have delivered much more bigger if Kevin Owens didn't get hurt. But him getting hurt kind of put them in a tough spot, and so they just had Joe Henry to replace him, which I thought was cool. But it just I think they definitely could have been cut from the show. Maybe they could have had that replaced with the TLC match or something else. AJ Styles and Logan Paul was solid. Um, the ending was a little bit weird. With Karrion Cross getting in there and trying to stop the guy, one of Logan's lackeys, from using the brass knucks, only for AJ to reject Karrion Cross trying to give it to him to use it, and then ultimately, it causes him to lose the match with Logan. Logan looked pretty decent, in the match for the things he did, especially when he busted out that lion saw from the feet. He busted it out, and the way he hit the clothesline, and AJ had a couple of good moves, with the 450 he tried to go for. Um, he did him with the Styles Clash, or at least tried to, because I know, yeah, he hit him with the Styles Clash, but then he couldn't go for the cover. He did not get to hit a phenomenal forearm, um, you know, but it was solid. It wasn't. I wouldn't say it was great, but it was definitely solid. Just a little bit weird with the way they ended the match. Um, but yeah, you know, it, I was expecting AJ Styles to win here, but they actually went with Logan Paul. Not really sure why, but it's 2 years in a row AJ loses at WrestleMania to LA Knight last year, which, if I had to be honest, I thought was a little bit better than this. But he loses to LA Knight last year, and then he loses to Logan Paul this year. So wasn't really expecting that, but you know, they definitely. I think the two shockers for me tonight was EO Sky retaining, because I wanted her to win, but I didn't think she would. I just the way they were teasing it, kind of felt like she was going to drop the title, and then this match, because I didn't think that AJ Styles was losing here. I was really thinking he was going to win the match. The women's tag match, Becky Lynch comes back with Live Valkyria. They beat Raquel and Liv Morgan for the tag team titles. Um, you know, it was really just all about Becky. Just all about that hot tag, and eventually, Becky, picking up the victory for the team, and now, Michael Cole called Live Valkyria two belts, which is what Becky was at one point. Um, You know, the thing is, are you going to do something with the IC belt? You know, with them having two titles now. So that was pretty interesting. Um, so yeah, the undercard. I thought up until maybe the last two matches was really really good. Um, but you know, it the main event, you know, with Cena and Cody. Yes, Cena wins the title. Man, yeah, Cena's the champion now. Um, what a night though. What a WrestleMania. Um, you know, night one, most people weren't too pleased with. I thought, you know, night one, the some of the matches, you know, they had the LA Knight Jacob Fatu one was really decent. The one with Naomi and Jay Cargo was pretty solid. The opener with Jay Uso and Gunther, you know, mixed views on that. I think if anything, I was more surprised they actually had Gunther tap more than anything. I just didn't expect they would go in that direction, him losing. Um, so yeah, it just definitely, you know, mix with night one up until the main event. The main event was, you know, amazing, but the undercard, I thought the undercard, I didn't think it was bad at all. I just, you know, some matches may have just been a little, maybe just needed a little bit more time, like Andrade Americano and Ray Phoenix, which I didn't expect Ray Phoenix to you know, lose that match, but you know, like that match or even the New Day and the War Raiders needed a little bit more substance in that match because the crowd didn't react as much as they could have. But it seemed the crowd was more into it for night two than they was for night one. But yeah, you know, solid though, solid show. Um, yes, Cena winning the title. I'm just more like the whole Travis Scott thing. I'm just like, man, like what a letdown, man. I mean, and just in terms of The Rock just not coming out, like, you know, I guess he really meant that he was not going to be involved. So it kind of makes it like, well, why did Cena, you know, side with him, and then, you know, he's not even at the biggest show of shows this year. You know, it's crazy. You know, it's crazy. He was heavily involved last year, but it's like this year he's, you know, he's not even in it. So it's just kind of crazy. But you know, I guess he was for real this time. But you know, pretty big show. So I just want, you know, I will say that. So that's pretty much it, guys. You know, sign on Ray Master Flex. Austin did come out and announce the attendance record before the main event, so that was cool. Just time filler, but that was cool. Which is the same thing I thought Orton match was just time filler. I didn't really think it needed to be on the card. They definitely could have, you know, put a different match in that spot, but it is what it is. So yeah, um, I'll just leave it at that, guys. And so sign on him as the flex. Like how it was described, seen as your new world champ, and you know, new WWE champion. So you had a lot of title changes on this show, except for the women's championship. So I guess you figured they were gonna have one title that didn't change because they knew that they were gonna have Cena win, because they knew that they were gonna have Dominic win the IC belt, because they knew that they were gonna have the women's tag belts change. They said we're gonna just have Io retain this year. So I thought that was the right call. So pretty much sign off Raymaster Flex, like I was describing. Talk to you guys